Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody. I am Milan Starcic. Welcome to the 160th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm here with co-host Scotty N, aka the Baron of Boots. And today's topic is listening. Can you share what this means to you, Scotty, and why you were happy to discuss this topic here today?
Yeah, so I was happy to discuss this topic because Milan came up with it. He's always got good ideas. He's got a lot of good ideas. Not always, though.
No.
I mean, you can't win them all the time. Can't win them all the time.
No.
So, what listening means to me today is vastly different than what listening would have meant for me before I came into recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a few different forms. One of them, I used to think I was a good listener because I was able to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't listening to understand. I was listening to respond and react to what was being told to me. Right? I was thinking of, oh, that's a good point. I should share on this when they, and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or if someone was in distress, then it was about solution-based listening, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not always what people need.
No, it's not.
So I think listening for me today is a combination of understanding, to learn about the other person, the situation they're in, and possibly responding, right? More like holding space. It's very similar to me to holding space with somebody. I don't know if you're familiar with that term.
I am, yes. But could you explain that for the people out there? Someone might not know what you mean at all there.
This is true. So basically, holding space for somebody is, let's say you have somebody that is hurting and you're involved with them, whether you're your friendship, brother, sister, whatever, there's a hurting individual or a hurting addict. Instead of forcing a solution on them, instead of me focusing and shoving my solution on them to their problems, it's about offering words of encouragement, letting them know that, I'm there if they need me, but then letting them walk their journey themselves. So with that, it's because you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So you lead your friend to what I feel the solution is. Say it's going to an NA meeting, but they got to come up with their own. They have to do it on their own. I can't. When it comes to addiction, especially, I have less power over someone else's addiction than I do over my own.
And you've already admitted what about yours?
I'm powerless.
That's right.
You hold on just 1 second. I just got to take my hoodie off.
Yeah, sure.
I'm dying.
I'd like to say that Babyface Nielsen just knocked it out of the park with his intro. If you haven't noticed, Scotty's basically shed 10 years, looks very dashing, and is a smooth-shaven Babyface Nielsen. So, listening is more than hearing words. It's an act of humility, openness, and presence. To truly listen is to quiet the noise of the ego, surrender our need to be right, and allow truth, guidance, and love to flow through others and our higher power. For me, it's about like that attachment to being right, you know, and I'm not
Mm,
talking about like my statement in a conversation, but my actions and position in life. You know, like my basic underlying morals or theories about how I should be acting, they must remain flexible because otherwise I'm saying I know it all and life is just far too amazing, complex, and deep for me to even say that I've grasped more than a tiny fraction of the opportunities that are present in life, you know. Listening in meetings to sponsors, sponsees, or the wisdom of the fellowship, or even to my own conscience, becomes my cornerstone for growth. Because without that awareness of a different way or an opportunity, I don't have any vehicle for change for myself, you know? And then we learn that listening is not passive, it's active engagement with life. You know, in recovery, we find that listening leads to understanding, and then understanding leads to empathy, and empathy to freedom.
mm.
Boom. Uh,
Mic
it,
drop.
Mic drop, mic drop. Gosh, you're such a handsome fellow up clean. Look at it, like it's unbelievable. Like I wasn't gonna say you were looking scruffy, but you look like so much more clean and younger. Like it's incredible that a little what a little grooming does, eh?
Yeah. It
Um,
was nice too. My barber does a hot shave,
yeah,
so it was quite nice. I don't know
I,
if you've
I
ever had one. I don't know if you've
I
ever had one before.
I did, and the very first one I had, it was with a guy I did not know. And I
Mm,
was not okay with him running a straight razor across my neck. Like I
mm,
had major trust issues. Like I was like,
mm.
I'm like, like I would never do it again without somebody like without a good sense of trust there. That's all I could say.
Yeah.
But it
It's
was
kind of like,
incredible. It,
yeah,
like you know all that weird razor burn and stuff you get, like it's just not there if you're preheated and done with a sharp device.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like woo, it's like literally smooth as a baby's bum by the end.
yeah, yeah.
Are you
I know what
ready
you mean
for?
about the trust part though, because
Yeah,
it's kind of like it's like when you're getting a tattoo, you want to keep still, right? 'Cause you're like,
yeah,
oh, I don't want to fuck it up. But you have a razor on your neck. And you're like, oh, I better keep still.
yeah. No, like don't drink a pile of coffee right before you go and be twitch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I came out unscathed, but I must say that it was disconcerting. And I didn't
Mhm.
expect that before I got there. It was like all I could think of was like every like mob movie.
Western.
Yeah,
Every Western, the guy's getting a shave by the barber, they get to interrupt him.
yeah. Okay, are you ready for a question here, babyface?
I am.
Okay. Listening to the is the first act of humility. It reminds us that we do not have all the answers. How has humility opened your ears to wisdom you once resisted?
Mm. So it makes me think of, I don't know if you've heard the term gift of desperation
I
when they
have,
came
but
into
for the
recovery.
people out
So,
there, describe to them what this present of desperation is.
so, so I was coming back into recovery this last time.
Hmm.
Uh, Drugs. So I had a bit of time. I relapsed. I was having issues with higher power, whatever. I knew, I knew there was something in Narcotics Anonymous that would keep me clean,
Yep.
and I needed the drugs to beat me into submission before I could surrender.
Hmm.
So coming in this last time, the gift of desperation is that I knew I had a clear picture in my mind of what my life was, what would happen to me, what would happen to my life if I were to continue using, right? The road I was on. And so the gift of desperation is when people are coming in and they're so deeply shook that they'll do anything to get clean. right? It's a removal, it's a forcible removal of reservations, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So the gift of desperation for me, I came here, I was willing to do whatever people asked of me. Like if someone said, if you skydive, you'll stay clean. Well, then fuck it. I'm terrified of heights, but I'll go skydiving because I want to stay clean, right? And
Did you have to skydive to stay clean?
no,
Oh, okay.
thankfully. But if my sponsor asked me to and told me, like you know, there's a there's a 12-step spiritual awakening that when you jump out of that plane, well, looks like I'm jumping out of a plane, right?
Yep.
But to answer your original question, my desperation and my humility. So the humility came from an understanding of step one before I did a formal step one. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yep.
It's like I come to the conclusion of step one through my own experiences and through my own imperial reasoning.
And failures.
Yes, experience is a
Mm, yeah.
great teacher.
Yeah.
So that humility led me to being open. So I took what I thought I knew about recovery and
Mm-hmm.
what I thought I knew and had learned in my previous times. And I said, those may be true and valid, but I had to start at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then as I grew in recovery, I was able to take some of the lessons I'd learned before, incorporate them into my new life. But for me, it was about being open minded and
Mm-hmm.
willing to do things differently. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because I've been around for a day or two, and I see a lot of addicts fall into this trap of uh they the gift of desperation gets them to the rooms and they get a bit of time. For some it's like a couple weeks, some it's a couple months, and then they seem to know everything they need to do to fix their life, and they stop taking advice, and it doesn't usually go very well.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to get closed off mentally. It's not good. The mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's open. You know?
Ooh, I like that. You know, I met a lot of kind of I'm gonna call it fundamentalist AA people at that conference, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
big movement. Like they used to take you through the steps in a day and a half to a week.
Yep.
And there's a big movement of that. They're saying that the lack of two-way prayer and uh, taking too much time on your steps is one of the reasons why there's less of a success rate now than there was
Mm-hmm.
when the program started. Because you want to do that whole step journey during that gift of desperation. Like it's like once that gift will fade. Like, look at
Mm-hmm.
every alcoholic or addict, I'll never do that again. And man, as soon as that pain starts fading, you better have your
Mm-hmm.
spiritual solution there. Or
Agreed.
or you're in dangerous water. Like it just takes one thing to be like the oh fuck it, versus you actually going, whoa, whoa, no, no, like anyway, yeah. So how has humility opened my ears to wisdom that I once resisted? Well, like, I mean, that the whole point of dying for me, literally, which Babyface there just referred to as the gift of desperation. Like for me, it just opened my mind and accelerated my willingness. Like,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, I was not going to go to treatment before that. I was okay, let's go to treatment. Second of all, I wasn't going to even remotely consider anything with the G word in it. I was, and by the time I went there, I was just like, okay, well, let's hear what they have to say. Like
Yeah.
there was like the gift of desperation is what I would say is like the most rapid mind opener I've ever come into contact with. you know,
Yeah.
but it is a limited time offer on that. But you know
Hmm.
that humility of like, hey,
I'm beaten.
what, like I'm beaten, and like I had spent 17 and a half years trying to prove my powerfulness, you know, and
Hmm.
that point of dying was the final straw of me saying, no, I have not won. I am not going to win. I am thoroughly defeated. You know, like I really love that analogy that you hear sometimes about World War II. It's like after the first atomic bomb was dropped on Japan, they were still trying to negotiate their surrender. After the second one was dropped, they were like, whatever you want, it's unconditional, just stop. You know,
Hmm.
and I feel that, you know, like that real gift of desperation is that unconditional surrender, no reservations, you know?
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
because if you're holding reservations, that's like keeping your foot in the door to leave,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
and in a million ways. So okay,
Um, just to quickly on that too,
yeah.
I've found that there's other areas of my life where I've
Mhm.
needed to be humbled before I would be allowed to seek advice or help in
Mm,
those areas.
okay.
And like for me, my treatment of my mental health,
Hmm.
I had to come to a point where I was beaten down enough to go, all right, I'm not doing a good job of this.
Hmm.
Let's ask some professionals what I should be doing, right?
Yep. Yep.
So that's
I,
how that works.
there lies humility again.
Hmm.
When we truly listen, we give the gift of presence to others. How do you practice presence when listening to someone share in a meeting?
Hmm. I think the two biggest thing. Okay, so there's a few things I guess that come to mind. One of them is eye contact. Like look at the person who's sharing.
Okay,
Maybe I can't. Maybe eye contact is a bit much, but just look at them. Right?
I do
Yeah.
this.
um, I try to focus on what they're saying, right?
Mm,
And I allow what they're saying to draw pictures in my head. If that
mm,
makes any sense.
mm,
Like I often find myself relating very strongly with other addicts in meetings because I'm internalizing what they're saying. I'm saying, like let's say somebody you should steal money from their roommates, right? And I can say, well, I've done that too.
mm,
So uh there's a connection there, right? And sometimes once I hear that connection, the rest of what they're saying makes a whole lot more sense.
mm,
It's a I have a friend in recovery out here. He calls it the me too. When someone's sharing, like, yeah, me too. Me too. I've done that.
mm,
That's a powerful thing, right? Like I found that for myself, a lot of the shit that I did or thought was so terrible or whatever, and when I get people nodding their heads in meetings, or you tell your sponsor and he doesn't run away, right? So but meetings especially, so identifying with the yeah, me too. I like to nod if something does resonate with me, I like to nod. Just
mm,
because from my own experience when I'm sharing, I find it easier to share if I know at least one person's paying attention,
mm,
basically. So I try to show the speaker that I'm paying attention. And then it's the same thing, it's the open mind part, right? It's just I've learned that you shouldn't shoot the messenger. Right? Because sometimes the people that I have the biggest personal issue with will say some shit that's just like fucking mind blowing, right?
mm,
Or you'll get someone coming in that has 30 days. They can drop some of the biggest fucking spiritual mic drops you've ever heard, and part of me goes, well, they only have 30 days. What the fuck do they know? And the other part of me goes, holy shit, that was beautiful. And it's a matter of like, who am I dismissing somebody because they have less time than myself or they're early in
Mhm.
recovery?
Yeah.
On the flip side, am I exaggerating somebody's effect when they have more time than I do? Right. So it's
Mm.
it's about it's about looking for the message. Looking for the
Yeah.
message.
I find that, how do I practice presence while listening to someone sharing? I mean, I like that you brought up exaggerated, like the exaggeration. I find sometimes I will pedestalize people. Like I will put people on
Yep.
a pedestal
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be like, man, what they share is magic. And then it's like it sets me up for a fall every time because they're human.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like they're gonna come in and have a bad day and I'm gonna be like, that message sucked. like
Yep.
and but what one of the things I find for myself, it's funny that you say you try to look at the person. I like to see people's faces, but when I find myself not being present, I have to close my eyes because
Mm-hmm.
I start to just like coast around the room, like looking at people, having this dialogue about what they're wearing, what's going on, what their face looks like,
Mm-hmm.
blah blah blah. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes the only way for me to shut that off is to close my eyes and really just focus on the words
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes the crowd can be distracting for me and
It can.
and so like it really is called sharing for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just the person talking who's sharing. We are sharing our attention. We are sharing and holding that space like you were talking about. Like when there is like distracting shit going on in a room while someone's sharing. This is one of the reasons that I seriously have pulled back from the online meetings because what I find is that like it's all fine and dandy for someone to get more recovery when they're at work. Like I am not knocking the value of online meetings, but
Mm-hmm.
when 90% of the meeting doesn't have their camera on and they're just like not paying attention, just like waiting for their turn to share and peel out of there, that
Mm-hmm.
just does not feel like a circle of energy to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the reasons why I keep my camera on the entire time I'm in a meeting, because I want to be accountable for whether I'm paying attention or not. Like just for my
Mm-hmm.
own sake, I want people to know that there's at least one person out there listening to them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree where you're coming from.
Yeah.
It's funny you mention that because sometimes I take my glasses off,
Okay.
and when I take my glasses off, it allows me to focus less on the physical distractions.
Hmm.
Um, there was something else. Yeah, so I a friend in Calgary, and she says, uh, sit your ass in the chair from prayer to prayer.
Yep.
So, but I know you see a lot of people that nobody needs to drink 4 cups of coffee in an hour long meeting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's maybe a bit. So I've always been good at like sitting still. So maybe that's my issue.
Yeah.
But it's kind of sometimes it gets excessive with
Mm.
people milling around or whispering to each other or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, that's me judging people because I personally have done that at a meeting where I'm walking home from this meeting and I'm going, man, I feel fucking fantastic. I think it was a bomber. And then I go, yeah, but I had 5 cups of coffee at the meeting, so I'm probably just on a caffeine.
Yeah. I try like unless I have to pee, I don't get up in a meeting. I would never get up to refill a coffee cup ever. Like I'm sorry, but I feel like I want to call what I call that is peacocking. I'm like
Mm-hmm.
people get up and they peacock back for the coffee and then they peacock back in the room. Like that's
It's an
just
ego thing. Yeah.
that's just what I feel like it is.
I like
Okay,
that. I've never heard that phrase before, but
but
I
it's
like I
like they're
like
just
that.
getting up, showing the feathers. Watch me walk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So listening
Mhm.
is not waiting to respond, it is allowing another person's truth to stand on its own. In recovery, how have you learned to listen without rushing to fix or advise?
I think the most I've learned of this has been being a sponsor and
Um,
how tempting it is to give advice in an area that I don't have expertise in, but because I'm a sponsor, I know better.
mhm.
Basically,
Yeah. Do you
like
want to talk about some trials or tribulations on that, or?
yeah, I'm thinking, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like I've had I had a sponsee that was quite a bit younger than I was, or I am, and very gentle soul, very nice person, very, and he was looking for a relationship advice in the guise of sponsorship advice, and the particular details of the relationship was a territory that I hadn't really experienced. So a big part of me was like, oh well, you're doing this wrong, she's doing that wrong, the dog's doing this wrong, all sorts of stuff, right? Like just nonsense. And I checked myself, and I remember saying to him, I don't have direct experience with this. I have an idea that I could share with you that might help, but this isn't like something that I've done, right? Because one of the things as a sponsor is that I'm not going to ask my sponsees to do something that I wouldn't be willing to do.
Mm,
So when I say, like read the basic text, I'm guilty of not doing this lately, but my sponsees are too active either. You know what I mean? It's like knowing my limitation, right?
mm. I really
Like
think if you, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm done. I'm done. I'm petering
What
off here. So,
I really think that if you look at the actual function of a sponsor, like from the literature versus what people are like, what roles people are taking on, they're not the same thing at all. Like, we're
yeah,
really a guide through the literature and the program. And that's what we're supposed to
so
be. We're not supposed to be like this life coach, you
no,
know? Like, and I feel like, you know, inevitably, if you take someone through the program correctly, it will change their life, you know. But
yeah,
like there, I don't treat my sponsor like a dear Abby, like I like, and he wouldn't let me do that, and I'm fine with that. Like I really just if I'm struggling with what I feel like a comprehension or an advancement in my program, I will talk to him. But it's kind of like when you go to a meeting and they're like, please keep your shares to, regarding NA or AA at the meeting. You know what I mean? They're not like, hey, take us to the grocery store and talk about the lady in aisle 3. That's not what we want. You know, yeah.
no.
So,
That's very true. I think that I mean that's part of like you were talking earlier about the going through the step work quickly.
mm,
I think that shows up there where as much it strips away everything but the nuts and bolts of what's going on.
mm,
There's no flashy packaging. There's no, there's no 1 year sponsor to sponsee medallion sharing. It's very
yeah,
straight up. It's like you're gonna die if you don't recover. This is how you recover, and you lay out the program. And
yeah,
I agree. I think that sometimes, like, I mean, you hear it said like a sponsor is your special person. You can call them at 2 in the morning, stuff like that. That's not true for everybody. Uh,
If you were
you can
going to
call me.
relapse,
You
if
can,
you were going to relapse, you can call me all you want, right? Like
yes.
but like I am not like John at work said this to me, and I'm real butthurt, or like
Mm,
like there, that's part of the growth and learning to process the life,
yeah.
So
Mm,
how have I learned to listen without rushing to fix or advise? Like, first of all, I mean, in the meeting sense, I don't crosstalk. You know what I
mhm,
mean? I don't crosstalk. I share my message, I'm not like an advice column. I'm like, I generally will share on what I'm learning and how it relates to the topics at hand.
mhm.
Because for me, some of my battles are very hard won, and they're not, it's not like I'm just get like, here's a tray of surrender, Milan, enjoy it. That's not what it is. It's me going deep and really, praying and surrendering and working hard and two-way praying and literally, when I feel like I get some kind of epiphany, I want to share it because I feel like that is the point of meetings, is sharing our solution, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But I really, like I said, like I will have conversations with my sponsees where, like when we start off a session, I'm like, tell me about your wins and losses from the last week. And then I'll
Mhm,
then I'll say, like, why do you think that was a win? Why do you think that was a loss?
mhm,
And get them to come to that conclusion.
mhm.
Like I'm not swooping in with some, oh, you should have done this. I wish you would have said to your wife, you have more surrender. But no, like I'm, I don't want to be that. And I don't think that that's useful. I have had some sponsees come to me with direct questions, and what I'll do is I'll turn it around to like talking about something that we've been working on. You know,
Mhm.
like like quite honestly, most of the time is just trying to help somebody get out of themselves. We come in real
Yes.
selfish, real self-centered, and somebody comes in with a big work problem, and 90% of the time it's because they're wanting to control everybody involved with work, you know?
Mhm.
And so I think there's real easy ways to make that apparent without fixing something or fixing somebody.
Mhm.
Like there's
I
pretty,
want to take it. Can I take us on a bit of a tangent?
I want you to. Let's go. Okay, I'm strapped in. Go.
So sorry, I just got a funny idea. Sorry.
That we're on Star Trek?
No, I
Oh,
wish. Um, say a roller coaster has to be there has to be some roller coaster fatalities for a roller coaster to work properly. But anyway, that's not what I was thinking. What I was thinking was, uh, I find there's a lot of or rather I find it to be a very open-ended argument on what constitutes a good share in a meeting.
hmm.
And there's a lot of, it's a very sticky problem, I think, because there's a lot of different ways to approach it. So I was wondering what your take on that might be.
My take on that is I try to run about a 90-10 for message to mess.
Hmm.
I don't think it serves anybody to just come and trauma dump with no solution. I
Hmm.
really think even if I lack the solution, I like to share about what I feel like is missing from my ability to find that solution.
Hmm.
Like, am I not surrendering? Am I, trying to take my will back? Like, what is, like I just feel that um I feel like to go into a share with no discussion about how you either used your higher power or use the skills that you've gotten from these tools to try to navigate life is just a story that's unrelated to AA or NA.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's,
Mm,
like you see in 90% of things, please, please keep your shares in regards to AA or NA. Like it says that in
mhm.
most meetings at the beginning.
A lot of meetings, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so to me, isn't that, aren't we supposed to aren't we now supposed to be law abiding citizens of the meetings we go to? Like, I mean, if they're saying no crosstalk, keep your discussions to the program. Like, isn't that what we're supposed to do? Otherwise, it's like, hey, Jerry, you really fucked up there. That's my crosstalk, and the lady shit the bed in aisle 3 when I was at the store today. Like, done. Like,
Mhm.
what kind of share is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Um, I approach it very similarly. I find that it's important. I find it's important that if I'm going through something difficult, that I talk about it.
Hmm.
But I do always try to offer a solution, more to myself than anybody else. But it's there. Um, I think because I've thought about this off and on for quite some time. Where I am with it today is, what's the point of the meeting? Why do we meet, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And is my share congruent, to use a math term,
Yep.
because we're math buddies.
Yeah, we are.
But is it, you know, is my message in line with the purpose of the meeting?
Carrying the message to the addict who's still suffering.
Right. And now that doesn't say newcomer,
Nope.
which is important because I've been to lots of meetings where I was not the newcomer, but I was suffering.
Yes. And that's where I feel the message part of the share is essential. Because
Yeah.
to me, even if I don't know the solution, I generally know my problem.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
am I acting in self? Is it one of my defects? Have I not surrendered something? And then what I'm looking for, okay, I'm just going to give you an example. I just decided the other day, right now, I'm on this quest to love more completely, to bring my
Hmm.
love to like a First Corinthians 13, like towards that's where I'm shooting for, right?
Hmm.
So now when I go to a meeting and they ask for a topic, I'm picking love every time. Why? Because I want to hear everybody's solution about love.
Hmm.
Like, so I'm asking the universe to teach me through the other people at the meetings.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it worked. Like the very first meeting I did it at, I learned some things,
Hmm.
because it's one thing to know the ideal, but to me, the point of meetings is first of all for sustenance of the fellowship, for being able to connect sponsors and sponsees. That's really important. Like if you all of a sudden just decided to quit drinking or quit drugs and you're walking down the road like, I hope I run into a sponsor today. That's just not going to happen. Like the point of
Hmm.
meetings is that connection for the longevity of the program to save these people's lives. But also, it's like
Hmm.
the meetings are a collective expression and growth of our common intelligence of the program. Like they're not rewriting the book every week, but, you know, what I have heard at some meetings, like how some people have interpreted the literature and been able to actuate it in their life, is just maybe not in the book because whoever was writing the book didn't think about it. But for
Mhm.
me, it gives me actionable steps in my life. When I hear of someone else's solution and their victory in relationships and circumstances and personal growth and connection to their higher power, all that, that to me is a
Mhm.
massive, massive
Mhm.
importance.
Mhm.
And that's where I'm saying I go to the meetings to hear a solution and to share a solution. You know,
Mhm.
it's enough for me. Like I can quickly describe my mess in two
Mhm.
sentences or less. And I don't need to be like, and then she said, like,
Mhm.
yeah.
No, it's true.
I'm glad you just took us on that little journey there because I really, uh, I really think that it's really important, like we spoke of this on this show before, and the fact is statistically we have one chance to help a newcomer at a meeting. And
Mhm.
if you're just trauma dumping and not giving any message, man, they're never coming back. They're
Mhm.
never, they're like, shit, man, I can go complain on my own and still be high. Like, what?
No,
You
no,
know?
that's a very good point. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, you ready for another question?
I am.
Oh, this one follows in quite nicely with what we were just talking about. So, by listening, we connect to the fellowship of shared experience rather than isolating in self will. How has hearing
Mhm.
other stories given you strength in your journey?
It all started with hope.
That's
It
right.
all started with hope.
Tell us about the
Um,
hope.
so the first meeting I ever went to, I remember where it was. My first introduction to a church basement, but um, it was probably tw 12, probably about 12, 10 or no, it would be about 12 people in the room, including myself and my stepdad, who brought me to the meeting because I wouldn't have gone on my own.
Hmm.
Actually funny because the meeting that was supposed to be my first meeting was the day prior, and um, I found the address. I was going myself. I went to the church. There was nobody at the church. There's another meeting on the in the same property or
Hmm.
building on the same property, and there's a bunch of people going in there. But I was too chicken shit to go up and ask them if this was the AA meeting. So then the next day, my stepdad was like, "All right, I'm just fucking taking you because you're obviously not going to do it on your own."
Hmm.
I'm so grateful he did. I'm grateful. I'm very grateful for that man, and his story is pretty profound too. But anyway, it was just they went around the table. It was a big long table. They went around the table. They took everybody took turns sharing about 5 to 10 minutes of their story. And I tell you, I don't know why, but when I left that meeting, I felt better than when I went into the meeting, right?
Hmm.
And as I've grown in my recovery and I've been able to reflect more uh on those early times, those early days, um, I was feeling hope. I didn't know what the feeling was, but it was hope. And I didn't know where it was coming from for the longest times. Then I realized it was divine, right? So I hope that answers the question.
I think it entirely answers the question.
Okay.
Yeah. So, how has hearing other stories given me strength in my own journey? You know, gosh, there's innumerable times that
Mhm.
hearing somebody share has either triggered some deeper level of faith for me, or created hope. Like, first of all, like, think of going into treatment the first time, and immediately, like, just seeing people who were 4 to 6 weeks ahead of me in the program, and they were
Yeah.
smiling and they were laughing, and there was already
Mhm.
joy and serenity coming into their lives. and
Mhm.
and when they talk about where they were 4 to 6 weeks before, like, in by all gauges in my brain, they were worse off than me. Even if I died, like,
Mhm.
how much worse could they be? But, like, it's so ridiculous how, like, comparison is the thief of joy, man. you know
Mhm.
but it was instantly hope. My very first connection to my higher power was because of that group of 6 people sharing before my turn, and me traveling through their journeys of faith and hope, you know? And, like, it has happened on almost every single front of the development of my program. Like, I am
Mhm.
almost always using other people's experience as my vehicle for
Mhm.
growth. Like,
Mhm.
it is, like, I would say, like, I have had profound moments through the step work, right? Like, it's like, but I feel like other people's shares and stories give me, like, a practical avenue to actuate what I've learned in the steps, you know?
Mhm.
In a way that, like, I can get stumped because I will always think like Milan. Like, I
Mhm.
consider myself a creative person, but there's just times where I will always think like me.
Mhm.
And that can be really limiting, like, because I've attacked some problems my whole life from the aspect of Milan. Like, I'm
Mhm.
fresh out of new Milan. Yeah,
No,
man.
I like that. I think you're right. I think it's the shared experiences, right? So it's important to share a bit about what's going on in the solution. Like when my father was nearing the end of his life, I'd seen other addicts go through the death of a parent and stay clean.
Hmm.
So not only did I know it was possible, but I knew who to ask.
Dude, when I first went into treatment, my one reservation was if my mom dies.
Hmm.
And literally, the third meeting I went to in treatment, there was a guy whose mom had died that week, and he talked about getting through it and how proud he was to show her that, like, in her honor, to remain
Hmm.
straight through that, and how the program people had kind of really rallied around him to keep him feeling supported in that. And I was like, oh, I can let this reservation go.
Hmm.
Like, it was literally just perfectly timed at the point where I was just learning about reservations, man.
Hmm.
The universe has an uncanny way of really dropping the bombs on us.
Hmm.
Okay, so this
Hmm.
is a perfect question to follow up with. It's like, man, we're just getting guided in a perfect. Okay. Listening is a form of surrender. It opens up to be guided rather than to control. How has listening to your higher power's will changed the course of your recovery, babyface? Ooh, look at that face. He's got to rub it. He's rubbing it in. Woo, he's soft. Supple. We'll call him supple today.
So a Russell Brand quote comes to mind. I don't know
Okay.
if you know do you know who
Yep.
Russell Brand is?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He
I,
recently converted to Christianity actually,
okay.
which is kind of crazy. But anyway, um, when I was watching an interview where he was talking about it, and he was saying, um, I do believe that Christ lived on this earth, and I believe that I wasn't him.
Yeah. I think for a
And
while though he thought he was like seriously.
probably,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
But I thought that was really interesting because, like, yeah, like a lot of you go like with the surrender part, like I will come up with what I think is a fantastic idea on how to approach a subject, and then two things will happen: either someone, or three things, either someone will talk me out of it, no one will talk me out of it, and I go ahead and do it, fuck shit up. So I made enough mistakes to know that I should prey on things, right?
Mm,
So recognizing and recognizing my higher powers will um seems to get easier over time as I get as I get more accustomed to thinking through the lens of my higher power
mm,
on subjects.
mm,
Um, because my natural reaction to things is often, I don't want to say incorrect. That's
mm,
not the right word. But you know what I mean? It's like it's just not. It's limited. My my it's like you were saying. Like my view of my life, I will only see through Scotty's eyes.
that's right.
But my
And
higher
we're just
power,
such a smaller part than
we see
the
just
universal
a little
picture.
tiny
Yeah.
slice, little tiny slice.
And it's always trying to make this little slice more important than it should be.
Yeah. It makes me think of uh what would you call it? The light spectrum, right?
Okay.
Like we see from what, like 350 to 600, 700 nanometers of length, and there's fucking so many different wavelengths out there, and we're just totally oblivious to them because we see this much.
Mm,
And it's like that in my life. Like I see from my state, I need people to bounce ideas off of, but I need my higher power to guide me because
mm,
I feel like part like I feel like one of the reasons why I'm not dead is because God has something in store for me, but I need Him to reveal it to me. It's not for me to figure out. Does that make
mm.
sense?
Yep.
So it's like a lot of people say like let God take the wheel. I don't think that's how it works. I think that as much as I may like Him to, that wheel is mine to drive. That bus is mine to drive. The boat is mine to drive. But God is the GPS.
Mm,
God's going to tell me step by step.
mm,
But I'll look at the GPS and I'll say, you know what? This road will be better. This road will be faster. There's fucking construction on that road. I get fucked myself over.
mm.
But I can always press that reset button. Oh God, I'm sorry. Here, I'll press this reset button. Calculates a new route for me. It's just the willingness to follow the directions. And when I fuck up, to say sorry, I fucked up, and go back to directions.
I love that. Um, like how is listening to my higher power changed the course of my recovery? I think the thing, like, I remember going into treatment, and they're like, you could be a little self-centered and a little selfish. And I was like, I was aghast. I was like, no, I'm very generous. I'm a great person. Like, but
Did you rumble your voice then too?
I was, I was,
Because
I was
that
like,
was awesome.
I was like so disgusted by them calling me that. But the thing about it is that I haven't met an alcoholic or an addict who isn't. And that's one of the biggest things about changing how you like the spiritual experience is seeing how we're part of something and not living in
Yeah.
how like and so for me, I just yesterday was one full month of the two-way prayer.
Mm.
And I have to say, Scotty, or Babyface, sorry, that it was the single most life changing thing I've done inside the program. It is,
Yeah.
it has really just created a simpler day for me, really kind of kept my ego in more check because I like, I have my whole page of what I should be doing and what how I should be approaching my moments. It's like a little template for every single
Mhm.
day that is actually like, for me, my question right now, like I was asking a few questions, but my single question right now is how can I love more completely? And just some really interesting things have come up. And when I've taken the advice of them, it has made people around me get loved more completely than they were for sure. And
Mhm.
but so my point to that is that listening to my higher power's will has entirely changed the direction of my life and my recovery. Not just my recovery,
Mhm.
but my entire life. Like
Mhm.
I, I was saying this to Bryant yesterday is that, it's about now for me, it's about the direction. Like I am working in a direction to love more completely versus a destination.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
I'm not like I want to be from here to there. I just want to I want to learn and to act more loving, you know? And that's a direction versus necessarily an entire goal. So yeah, okay, you ready for another one?
I am.
Okay. Our ears often open before our hearts do. Can you recall a time when hearing someone share softened your heart towards change?
Mhm. I have a when I first yeah, so when I first came to Alberta and I was first going to meetings out here in Alberta,
Where were you before?
um Moncton, New Brunswick.
Oh, I have family in Hillsboro.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um so I moved out here as my father was ill, and we weren't entirely sure if he would make it at the time, which is one of the reasons why I came out. And I wasn't necessarily here permanently at the time, but anyway, so I started going to meetings, and one of the first meetings I went to, a gentleman was sharing about uh, losing his mother, and it was kind of like it stirred a lot in me to hear somebody go through something that I'm possibly going through. He ended up becoming my sponsor, actually. Um, he, I was not expecting that when I was going to a meeting. I Red Deer meetings are a bit different. I hadn't really been to that fellowship before. Or no, that's not. No, 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 no. No, that one I had been to that fellowship. It was other fellowships I haven't been to. But that meeting itself, I remember it was in the Knox Presbyterian Church in the basement. And yeah, I was like, well, if he can do it, there's hope for me. I didn't necessarily think I could do it, but I knew there would be hope for me.
Hmm.
And that was one of the first times because I had been going to meetings for a couple of months at that point, more than a couple of months.
Hmm.
But that was the first time there was ever that like real click in my head, right? Like this shit is real, you know?
Hmm.
And there's been a number of times in my recovery where hearing somebody's story, it'll either break me emotionally or it'll fire me up like nothing else, you know?
Hmm.
So
Can I recall a time when hearing someone share softened my heart towards change? I think of entirely of my adoption of what I did for my higher power. It was literally 3 days into the treatment center. There was 6 people before me. I remember this guy, I won't say his name because of anonymity, but he had considerable faith, religious faith, and I could see the peace and contentment that that brought him. And I thought, what a lucky feeling, or what a lucky thing for him to have that, and I thought, that until then I probably hadn't acknowledged that merit of faith, you know.
Mm.
And then another person shared, and it just kind of washed over me because I was still considering that other person's share. And then the next one was my friend young Gabriel, and he was talking about how his belief in a higher power had grown and how much that was helping him, inside his sobriety at that point. And then it was that it took me into a journey of reflection at that point where I realized I had a higher power for songwriting. I had this
Mhm.
cosmic energy that I was a conduit for. It was, it very much related to almost identically what, they tell you to conceptualize for a higher power. And it was in that during Gabriel's share that I realized I had a higher power for a song, but didn't have one to save my own life. And I remember
Mm.
that being a massive, like I started bawling. It wasn't even my share, and I'm like there bawling away. Like it was, like the first 3 weeks at treatment, man, were very emotional for me. And
Mhm.
but yeah, so I would say that that would be my example for that. Are you ready for another question, babyface?
I am, yes.
Okay. Listening invites empathy, and empathy dissolves judgment. How has listening helped you move past contempt or criticism of others?
Mm. I think uh hmm. So there's, for me, I think of don't shoot the messenger, right? That I can't predict when I go into a meeting who's going to share the message that's going to save my life.
Hmm.
Um, Now my brain likes to. My brain
Yep.
likes, oh look, that person's recovery is so shiny, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna spout some wisdom off. Or one of the traps I used to fall into, that old timer is a piece of shit because he doesn't recover the way I think he should be recovered at the age of 33. Right,
Hmm.
at 33 is like like the other day I went to a meeting and there's a guy celebrating, or not at that meeting, but will be celebrating like something like 54 years, 53 years.
Wow.
And it's like, and I'm listening to him share, instead of thinking of, wow, 53, that's amazing. I'm going, at 53, he should be fucking sharing better than the way he's sharing now.
Ooh.
He's had enough time to figure this shit out. And it's like, whoa, Scotty, pump the brakes. Like,
Yeah.
right?
You're like
So-
all powerful wisdom.
yeah. But it's just, it makes me think, like I can't. What my job is to remain open minded,
Yep.
and I feel like the only um the only duty I have, having a few days clean,
Hmm.
is to make the room a place of love and support.
Hmm.
That's and I feel like that's my job when I go to a meeting.
Hmm.
If if I'm going to the meeting because I'm hurting, that's why I'm going to the meeting. If I'm
Hmm.
going to the meeting because my cup is full, if I'm hurting, I go to a meeting I hope to receive.
Hmm.
My cup is full, I go to a meeting I hope to give.
Hmm.
But like I feel like the purpose of the meeting is to help the still suffering addict. what can I do to fulfill that? And having a bit of time just means that I can slowly, or actually gently, limitedly and gently guide things in a positive direction.
Hmm.
And that's pretty much all I can do.
Yeah, I love that. So, how has listening helped me move past contempt or criticism of others? Man, I have had people that I have felt resentment for in rooms come out and knock it out of the park in for what my life needs. And if I had shut
Mhm,
off my listening, I would have
mhm,
just like gone right past that message. You know, I believe that everybody carries a message, even the person in for one day, because sometimes that message is that it still sucks out there.
mhm.
And uh, I don't need very much of a reminder to know how much it sucks, but I certainly can remember it. But I want to hold space for people that I like or dislike, it all the same.
Yeah.
I don't want to be distracted just because I have some personal preference that's keeping me from enjoying that person as who they are. I want to help be the vehicle of recovery for everybody in that room by holding that space,
Yeah.
regardless. And that's why, I said earlier, sometimes I just need to close my eyes because for some reason my eyes make more of a judge out of me. Whereas if
Mhm,
I can just close my eyes and listen for the inner child inside that share who's really
mhm,
just trying to get out, or
mhm.
feeling trapped or feeling hurt or feeling lost, I can gain more compassion in that way. And so are you ready for some lightning round?
I am.
Okay.
I love lightning round.
I know you do. Oh my God. So I was on a podcast with Andrew and Brandy and BW on Friday. We, because everybody was so short of time, we cut it down to 30 seconds for some of them. Woo! 30 seconds is like lightning round, but we're going 1 minute here. Okay. Let's
Okay.
just say silence is often the deepest part of listening, where we hear more than words. How do you use silence to connect with the spiritual dimension of listening?
Mm. So, have you ever walked deep into the forest,
Oh, yeah,
right?
like big time.
Gone is like I live in a city, so there's like parks and there's lots of trees and shit. But I mean, like going, like driving, 2.5 hours past a town to get into some little neck of the forest,
Hmm.
and that's I feel when I hear true silence,
Hmm.
and when I hear my God speak to me. It's something my wife is very big on, and I think it goes back to the Stoics actually,
Hmm.
if you look at it. So for me, I have to a little bit over time.
Yeah.
I have to do my best to quiet myself, right?
Hmm.
My physical self, my emotional self, my mental self, because that's when my spirit will speak to me.
I love that. And so, how can I recall it? Oh, sorry. How do I use silence to connect with the spiritual dimension of listening? So, one of the things, I mean, myself, like, dude, my road is almost like that, where I can just get to silence, like the loudest thing is the birds and the deer or the bear walking by. Like, I literally, I get that right here. And so, what I like to do is I like to actually verbally pray out loud, and then
Mhm.
it's like I open myself up, kind of extending my arms, listening for that answer, that connection. And it often comes in the form of wind as a reply to me. And
Mm,
it's just really quite a mystical feeling to feel that wind enter me in that energy form of the spirit.
mhm.
Okay, when we listen, we honor the dignity and humanity of others. What has recovery taught you about respecting the voice of every addict or alcoholic who shares?
It's like I said, you can't predict who's going to share the message you need,
Hmm.
and you can't predict who's going to share the message somebody else needs either.
Hmm.
It makes me think of like how many times, like I've been roommates with people I go to meetings with, and close with a few people where we would not critique people's shares, but if a share rubbed us the wrong way, we'd be like, "What the fuck was that?" And then I don't know how many times that's been my opinion, and someone else would say, "Actually, I really needed to hear them." Whenever anybody says after they go to a meeting that they really needed to hear that, it's kind of like, you know,
I believe
I'm
them.
just I'm just a cog in the wheel, right?
Hmm.
When it comes to Narcotics Anonymous, I am a cog in a wheel,
Hmm.
and I got to remember that it takes all the other cogs to make the wheel roll.
That's right. So, how has recovery taught me about respecting the voice of every addict or alcoholic who shares? I would like to echo what you just said. Like, I don't know what everybody in the room's message they need to hear is. So, what suits me just fine, it's not necessarily the message that could save someone else's life today. And not only that, is that, like meeting people where they're at, like having tolerance and acceptance for people of where they're at, like they might be thinking they're sharing the best message ever because they haven't learned how to have gratitude in their life yet and don't have a positive side to something, you know?
Mhm.
And that can be we need to support people while they grow. And the only way for doing that is to accept people where they're at.
Yep.
I forgot to start the timer, but I was under a minute, I'm sure. Okay, listening to ourselves with honesty is the beginning of self awareness. How has journaling, prayer, or meditation helped you listen to your own truth? Babyface.
So one of the big problems I have is I get wrapped up in my thinking and wrapped up in my notions, and they all get tangled up. So the most effective way when I get when I get stuck like that, where I've tied something in knots and I can't get rid of it, what I do is I'll actually write a letter to my higher power, and I write in that letter everything that's possibly going on. And if I think about something that's a tangent to what I'm talking about, but I'm writing the letter, I'll write the tangent down. I won't go through and edit that letter. I'll read it, but I won't edit it. And then I'll burn that letter. And that's been a really real big significant tool for me to get my thoughts in check. And once I get my thoughts in check, I can get my emotions in check, and then everything just falls into place.
I love that. How has journaling, prayer, or meditation helped me listen to my own truth? The only form of journaling really that I'm doing right now is this two-way prayer. And I started off with gratitude, then I have my question, and then I listen for the answer and write out answers. But one of the things that it's teaching me is that inside me is something that knows what's the right thing to do. you know like
Mm,
like I intuitively know what's the good thing to do, whether I'm masking that solution from myself so far that I just act in the wrong way. But that there is truth, there is pureness, there is unselfishness, there is love inside me too.
mm,
Okay,
mm.
listening to sponsors or trusted friends anchors us in accountability. How has being willing to listen to direction kept you steady in long term recovery?
Is my ability for my sponsors to right size my problems.
Hmm.
Like I'll make things way more complicated than they have to be,
Oh,
almost
God.
every time.
Yeah.
Like even like I had a roommate once, and I wasn't working, so I had supper ready for him when he got off work. And
Mm.
he's like, "I'm really grateful, but you have to use so many dishes, so I just make a huge fucking mess." So that's kind of what I think.
I love that. Okay, how has being willing to listen to direction kept me steady in my recovery? So, for sure for me, I know that I still think like Milan, and that creepy, selfish Milan will delude Milan at every turn. Like that addictive behavior comes back in the way of making me addicted to being right. And like,
Mhm.
so I'll come up with these grand schemes of amazingness, and I literally will call my friend young Gabriel, who's my calibration brother. We call ourselves calibration brothers because I'm like, hey, does this sound crazy to you? And if, like, 9 times out of 10, if I've got to ask him, it's already pretty crazy. Like, I've already gone in a tangent. Like, if I'm questioning the craziness of it, there's a good chance that it's just me, like, trying to rationalize something, you know?
I like that. I like it a lot.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. I got a last one here for you. Listening is an act of love. Let's end with love. It tells
Hmm.
someone you matter enough for me to hear you. How do you practice listening as an expression of love in your relationship?
I think open communication in my relationship is very strong component. We try to one of the things we're in the habit of doing, we'll fall off a bit, but is just checking in with each other. So I've come to realize that I sometimes won't express myself if I'm not prompted. I think it's just Megan's and my ability to talk about um, a lot of different stuff and goings on in our individual lives and how that relates to us together. And we try to keep very God centered when we talk. I think that's we start every if we're ever having a tough conversation with something, we start the conversation with "I love you" and "I want to continue this relationship," and
Oh, I love
then
that.
and then you can go from there. So,
I love that. I would say for myself that I'm trying to learn how to listen. You know,
mhm,
um, it it isn't always an easy journey. And but I do see that time you spend validating someone and listening to them is an expression of love. It
mhm,
really is. And so, one of the things that keeps coming up is, listen more, listen to others rather than be heard, seek to understand, not be understood. These are things that I really want to implement into my life. And if I don't start somewhere, it's never going anywhere. So yeah, I think that's what I got. Today was amazing, baby face. You look beautiful, and I was happy to be here listening to you and to speaking.
mhm. Yeah,
Um,
it was great.
every single time we get together, it's amazing. Would you like to take us
Mhm.
out with a joke?
Sure. Why do addicts make terrible stand-up comedians?
Why?
Because they always crack up.
Tune in next episode for more recovery fun. Bye bye, everybody. We love you. Please help us help others. If you like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.